Her skin color changed with her emotions, but being touched by a human, Derek Morgan adjusted his lightweight vest as he strode through the gleaming corridors of Nexus Interstellar Corporation. 3 weeks into his new position as operations specialist, he still couldn't quite believe his luck. Humans weren't exactly common in alien-owned megacorporations, but his reputation for solving complex logistical nightmares had preceded him. "Morning, specialist," nodded a tentacled Vexillion as they passed in the hallway. "Yeah, morning," Derek replied with an easy confidence that had become his trademark. His chestnut hair was swept back in its usual style, and he'd opted for his sleeveless gray tank under the vest today, partly because of the climate controls that seemed calibrated for species with higher body temperatures and partly because, well, he worked damn hard for his physique. As he rounded the corner toward the central atrium, his attention was caught by a flash of vibrant pink. It was that new analyst from the quantification division, Eva, if he remembered correctly. She was one of the Lamidians, a humanoid species known for their color-shifting skin and analytical prowess. Her snow-white hair cascaded down her back in an elegant style that complemented her slender yet curvy figure, perfectly showcased by her form-fitting gray bodysuit. Derek noticed something small and glinting on the floor behind her as she walked toward the building's entrance. "Hey, excuse me," he called out, quickening his pace. When she didn't hear him over the ambient hum of the atrium, he closed the distance and lightly touched her shoulder. "I think you dropped." The words died in his throat as her shimmering pink skin suddenly flared to an intense, almost blinding bright magenta. The tiny sparkles embedded in her skin began pulsating with light, her large, light gray eyes widened in shock as she spun around, one hand flying to cover her mouth. She stammered, her voice melodic even in distress. "I need to go." Derek pulled his hand back as if burned. "I'm sorry, I just wanted to." But she was already backing away, her skin still that brilliant shade, as she clutched a data pad to her chest like a shield. This isn't, excuse me," she practically bolted toward the nearest exit, leaving Derek standing there holding the small memory crystal she dropped, feeling like he'd just committed some terrible cultural faux pas. "Smooth move, human," chuckled a deep voice behind him. Derek turned to see Krell, a burly Torian security officer with leathery gray skin and small horns. "You really don't know what you just did, do you?" "Apparently not," Derek admitted. "Pocketing the crystal, care to enlighten me?" Krell's rumbling laugh echoed through the atrium. "That color change for Lamidians, that's their ready-to-mate signal. It only happens when they're, how do you humans say it, turned on." Derek felt heat rising to his face. "You're kidding." "Not even a little bit." Krell said, clearly enjoying Derek's discomfort. "Their skin changes with emotion, sure, but that particular shade is reserved for when they're in season and find a suitable mate." "Congratulations, Morgan, you just told everyone in the atrium that you got her hot and bothered with a single touch." Derek muttered, "I was just trying to return this." He pulled out the crystal. "Well, you might want to do that," Krell suggested, still grinning. "Maybe send it through inter-office mail instead." At that moment, Ivara Rhaenyra pressed her back against the cool wall of the restroom stall, willing her skin to return to its normal pink hue. This was mortifying. Nothing like this had ever happened before, not with any species and certainly not from a simple touch on the shoulder. "Get it together," she whispered to herself, watching as the magenta slowly began to fade. "It was just an unexpected reaction, it means nothing." But it wasn't nothing, and she knew it. Lamidians didn't just flash their breeding colors for no reason, their biology was precisely calculated, a biological signal meant to identify genetic compatibility. And hers had just broadcast to the entire atrium that she found the human male compatible, the human Derek Morgan. She'd noticed him, of course. It was hard not to, humans were rare enough in this sector, but one that looked like him, with those muscular arms exposed by his tank top and that confident smile, she'd caught herself watching him more than once during departmental briefings. But this was different, this was her body betraying her, announcing her attraction in the most primal way possible. Her communicator chimed, and she groaned when she saw it was from her supervisor. Analyst Ren Terrace, please report to my office immediately. Perfect, just perfect, Derek thought, finding himself unable to focus on his work terminal. The memory crystal sat on his desk, a reminder of the morning's awkward encounter. He decided against Krell's suggestion of inter-office mail, that seemed too impersonal after what had happened. But he wasn't sure how to approach Ivara without making things worse. His terminal pinged with a new message from Krell Security 2D, Morgan, Operation Subject, your Lumidian situation. Morgan, I thought you might want some actual facts instead of just my amusement at your expense. Lumidians are empathic color changers, their skin reflects their emotional state. Most colors are subtle shifts. The bright magenta is special, it's a mating response that typically only happens during their seasonal cycle when touched by someone they're biologically compatible with. It's involuntary and considered deeply private in their culture. It's like walking up to someone and having them suddenly display a visible erection because of your presence, hence her embarrassment. Derek ran a hand through his hair. No wonder she's been so mortified. I needed to apologize, but how? Another ping from E. Rendaris quantification to D. Morgan operations, subject, this morning, Specialist Morgan, I believe you have something of mine. I'll be in conference room 7B at 1300 hours. We should talk. Derek checked the time, that gave him 30 minutes to figure out what the hell he was going to say. Conference room 7B was one of the smaller meeting spaces tucked away in a quiet corner of the building. He arrived 5 minutes early, the crystal in his pocket feeling inexplicably heavier than it should. When the door slid open, Ivara was already there, her back to him as she gazed out the viewport at the sprawling cityscape of New Aurora. Her skin had returned to its normal pink, though Derek now noticed subtle shifts in its luminosity as she breathed. Analyst Renaris, he said, keeping his distance. I brought your crystal. She turned, her expression carefully composed. Thank you, Specialist Morgan. I appreciate your discretion. Look, Derek said, placing the crystal on the table between them, I want to apologize for this morning. I had no idea that touching you would cause such a reaction, I was just trying to return your property. A slight shimmer passed across her skin. Perhaps the apology should be mine, she said. My reaction was unexpected. Normally, our color changes are under better control, but certain responses are autonomic. She paused. Especially during certain cycles. Derek nodded, trying to be professional despite the awkwardness. Krell filled me in a bit. I understand it's a private matter. Did he now? A flash of irritation darkened her pink tone. Well, I suppose it saves me the explanation. Though I doubt he provided all the nuance, probably not. Derek admitted, I mentioned biological compatibility. Ivara's skin rippled with a subtle pattern that Derek found mesmerizing. Yes. Lumidians have evolved to identify genetically compatible mates through touch. The color response is stronger during our fertile periods, which I happen to be experiencing now. It's usually only triggered by our own species, though, she met his eyes directly, you're the first human to ever trigger it in me. The implications hung in the air between them. I see, Derek said, not entirely sure that he did, and that's unusual. A small smile played on her lips. It seems my biology finds you interesting, Specialist Morgan. Derek couldn't help but return her smile. Well, I find you pretty interesting too, Analyst Renaris. Even before the light show, your skin brightened slightly, he noted, realizing he was witnessing the Lumidian equivalent of a blush. Perhaps we could discuss this further over dinner. Maybe there's a restaurant in the Eastern Quarter that caters to multiple species. I'd like that, Derek replied, surprised but pleased by the turn of events. And maybe you could teach me more about Lumidian color responses so I don't cause another scene in the atrium. Her laugh was like wind chimes. I think that could be arranged. Though I should warn you, her voice dropped to a more intimate tone, some responses are quite intense when explored deliberately. Derek felt his own body responding to her subtle flotation. "I'm a quick study," he promised as they exchanged contact information. Derek couldn't help but think that his new job had just gotten a whole lot more interesting than he'd anticipated. Later, over a sip of his amber-colored drink at a corner table in Stellar Palette, a restaurant known for its interspecies cuisine and discreet atmosphere, Derek asked, "So, your skin literally broadcasts your emotions to everyone around you?" "That sounds exhausting," she replied. They discussed how Lamidian children spend years learning to control the more obvious reactions by adulthood. "We can suppress most emotional displays if we choose to, except for the magenta," Derek noted with a slight smile. Aubra's skin rippled with a soft lavender hue that quickly faded back to pink. "Yes, except for that one. It's, primal. Biological, like your human reflexes. You can't stop yourself from blinking if something comes toward your eye." Derek found himself fascinated by the tiny sparkles embedded in her skin, how they seemed to pulse with her heartbeat. "Has that happened before with other species?" "I mean, never," she said, meeting his gaze directly. "It's extremely rare, even between different Lamidian subtypes. The fact that it happened with you," she paused, taking a sip of her iridescent blue beverage. "It's unprecedented, as far as I know." "Lucky me." Derek's voice dropped slightly. "You should be careful, Specialist Morgan," she warned playfully. "I can see you're enjoying the effect you have on me," Derek corrected. "And yes, I am. It's refreshingly honest. Humans have to guess what others are feeling, but you just show it." "Ira," she offered in return, "and trust me, we can be just as deceptive when we want to be. We simply have to work harder at it." Their food arrived, a plate of something resembling pasta for Derek and a bowl of luminous spheres for Ivara. As they ate, their conversation flowed easily between them, covering everything from their respective home worlds to their career paths. "So, what brought you to Nexus?" Derek asked, genuinely curious. "From what I understand, Lamidians usually work in artistic or diplomatic fields, stereotypes of ours," she said with a good-natured eye roll. "We're known for our emotional intelligence, yes, but many of us excel at pattern recognition and quantitative analysis. I specialized in predictive algorithms, essentially teaching computers to recognize patterns the way Lamidians naturally do." "That's impressive," Derek said sincerely. "What about you?" "Humans are still relatively rare in this sector," he shrugged. "I've always been good at solving logistical puzzles. Earth is crowded and competitive out here, my skills are in higher demand, and the adventures are better." He grinned. "Though I didn't expect one of those adventures to include making an alien woman light up like a beacon on my first month on the job." Ivara laughed, a sound that made the sparkles in her skin dance. "Well, I didn't expect to broadcast my attraction to the entire atrium either. So, I suppose we're even." As the evening progressed, Derek found himself increasingly drawn to her, not just her exotic appearance, but her quick wit and the way she listened intently, as if cataloging every word. "There's something I'm curious about," he said as they finished their meal. "If the magenta is a mating response, does that mean Lamidians only feel attraction when they're touched by someone compatible?" Ivara's skin took on a deeper pink hue. "No, we experience attraction like any sentient species. The color response is more like confirmation, a biological green light, if you will." She hesitated. "It's why many Lamidians wear more covering clothing in professional settings." "Accidental touches happen, but you don't," Derek observed, nodding toward her form-fitting bodysuit with its revealing cutouts. "I never had a reason to worry before." "No non-Lamidian has ever triggered a response," she admitted, her eyes meeting his with unmistakable interest. "Until you." The air between them seemed to charge with electricity. "Now," Derek said in a low voice, "I'm reconsidering my wardrobe choices." She smiled. "Or at least who I allow to touch me." Derek leaned slightly closer. "And if I were to touch you now deliberately?" Her pupils dilated, the gray of her eyes darkening. "We'd give the other patrons quite a show. Maybe somewhere more private then." Perhaps my apartment is nearby, she replied, her skin pulsing with anticipation. Their walk to her apartment was charged with anticipation. In public, they maintained a professional distance, but Derek could see the occasional ripple of color across her skin when their eyes met. Her living space was surprisingly cozy, a blend of minimalist design with splashes of vibrant color in the artwork and furnishings. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a spectacular view of New Aurora's skyline, the city lights twinkling against the night sky. "Can I offer you a drink?" she asked, slipping off her shoes. "I'm good," Derek replied, taking in the space. "Nice place, and thank you." She seemed suddenly nervous, her skin shifting through subtle variations of pink. "I should probably explain something before we proceed." Derek raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening." "Lamidian intimacy is different," she began, gesturing for him to sit on the sleek couch while she remained standing, as if needing distance. "Our skin is highly sensitive, especially during color changes. What you saw this morning was an involuntary response, but when we choose to let our colors flow freely, the experience is much more intense." "How intense?" Derek asked, genuinely curious. "For us, skin contact can be more intimate than what other species consider sexual contact," she explained. "The exchange of emotional energy through color resonance is profound." Derek considered this. "So, when I touched your shoulder this morning, it was like an unexpected electric shock of pleasure?" She confirmed, her skin darkening slightly at the memory. "Imagine someone caressing your most sensitive areas without warning in a public place." "No wonder you ran," Derek said with newfound understanding. "Now imagine that same touch, but when both parties are willing and prepared for it." The implication hung in the air between them. "I'd like to understand," Derek said softly, "if you're willing to show me." Ivara moved toward him, her movements fluid and graceful. She sat beside him on the couch, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her, but not quite touching. "Start with my hand," she instructed, extending her palm upward. "And go slowly." Derek reached out, hovering his fingers above hers. "Will it affect me too?" "Not physically the way it does me," she said, "but many species report a psychological response, a feeling of connection." Gently, he lowered his fingertips to her palm. The reaction was immediate and stunning. Where his skin met hers, her pink coloration deepened to that vibrant magenta, spreading outward like ripples in a pond. The tiny sparkles in her skin brightened, pulsing in rhythm with what he assumed was her heartbeat. Ivara's eyes fluttered closed and a soft gasp escaped her lips. "Are you okay?" Derek asked, concerned yet unwilling to break contact. "Yes," she breathed, her voice husky. "More than okay, this is mud." "No, normal," he murmured. "Expected when the touch is welcome." Experimentally, Derek traced his fingers up her wrist, watching in fascination as the colors followed his touch, leaving trails of magenta that slowly faded back to pink. "It's beautiful," he murmured. Ivara opened her eyes, and the intensity of her gaze nearly took his breath away. "For my people, this is the most intimate form of connection. Allowing someone to see and influence your colors is an act of complete trust." Derek understood the significance of what she was sharing. "Thank you for trusting me with this." Her free hand came up to cup his cheek, and he felt a warmth spread through him that had nothing to do with physical temperature. "There's something about you, Derek Morgan, something my biology recognized before my mind could catch up." He turned his face slightly to press a kiss to her palm and was rewarded with a cascade of bright colors flowing across her skin. "Can I kiss you?" he asked, suddenly feeling like a teenager again, nervous and excited. In answer, Ivara leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. The contact sent waves of magenta flowing across every visible inch of her skin, the sparkles pulsating with increased intensity. Derek felt a strange, pleasant buzzing where their skin connected, as if her emotional energy were somehow transferring to him. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing heavily. "That was..." Derek began, struggling to find words. "Just the beginning," Ivara finished for him, her eyes dark with desire. If you want more, Derek's answer was to pull her closer, his hands sliding along the exposed skin of her shoulders, marveling at the colors that bloomed beneath his touch. Each caress seemed to intensify her response, the magenta growing brighter, occasionally interspersed with flashes of gold and deep purple. "What do those colors mean?" he asked between kisses. "Cold is joy," she whispered against his lips. "Purple is desire." As their exploration continued, Derek found himself entranced by the symphony of colors playing across her skin. It was like making love to a living aurora, each touch creating new patterns, new responses. He learned that firm pressure created sharp bursts of color, while light, teasing touches produced softer, spreading waves. Ivara, for her part, seemed equally fascinated by his responses, though they were less visually spectacular. "Oh, your heart rate increases when I touch you here," she observed, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest, "and your pupils dilate when I do this." She demonstrated with a particular movement that indeed made his vision blur momentarily with pleasure. "We have our own biological responses," he managed to say, "they're just not as pretty as yours." She laughed, a sound that made her skin shimmer with golden sparkles. "Ah, I find them quite appealing." As the night progressed, they discovered each other's bodies with the wonder of explorers charting unknown territory. Derek learned that the backs of Ivara's knees were particularly sensitive, producing spirals of deep indigo when kissed. Ivara discovered that the spot where Derek's neck met his shoulder made him gasp when her teeth grazed it lightly. Their eventual joining was unlike anything Derek had experienced before, a melding of physical and emotional intimacy that left him feeling both completely exposed and utterly accepted. Ivara's skin blazed with color, the magenta so bright it illuminated the room, interspersed with pulses of gold and white that seemed to match the rhythm of their movements. Afterward, as they lay tangled together, her skin had settled into a soft, glowing pink with occasional ripples of contented blue. "I've never seen that color before," Derek noted, tracing a finger along a patch of serene blue. "Satisfaction," Ivara murmured sleepily. "Complete contentment." Derek smiled, pulling her closer. "It's a good color on you." As they drifted toward sleep, Derek couldn't help but wonder what this unexpected connection might mean for both of them. One thing was certain, his new job had just become intimately more interesting than he could have imagined. The next day, over drinks at Stellar Palette, Derek asked, "So, your skin literally broadcasts your emotions to everyone around you?" "That sounds exhausting," she replied, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. "Lamidian children spend years learning to control the more obvious reactions. By adulthood, we can suppress most emotional displays if we choose to, except for the magenta." Derek noted with a slight smile, "Yes, except for that one. It's, primal, biological. Like your human reflexes, you can't stop yourself from blinking if something comes toward your eye." Fascinated by the tiny sparkles embedded in her skin, he asked, "Has that happened before with other species?" "Never," she said firmly, meeting his gaze. "It's extremely rare, even between different Lamidian subtypes. The fact that it happened with you," she paused, taking a sip of her iridescent blue beverage. "It's unprecedented, as far as I know." "Lucky me," Derek said, his voice dropping slightly. Ivara rewarded him with another lavender ripple across her skin. "You should be careful, Specialist Morgan," she warned playfully. "I can see you're enjoying the effect you have on me," he replied, "and yes, I am. It's refreshingly honest. Humans have to guess what others are feeling, but you just show it." "Ira," she offered softly, "and trust me, we can be just as deceptive when we want to be. We simply have to work harder at it." Their conversation drifted from personal anecdotes to professional lives. Derek explained how logistics puzzles had driven him to Nexus, while Ivara described her work in predictive algorithms for defense systems. They discovered that despite their differences, both shared a deep passion for solving complex problems and a curiosity about the interplay of biology and emotion. Later that evening, as they walked hand in hand through the botanical gardens of New Aurora's Central District, a sharp, authoritative voice interrupted their conversation. Derek turned to see a human man in a crisp military uniform approaching them. Commander Richard Blackwell of Earth's Interstellar Defense Force, Derek acknowledged automatically, straightening his posture. "This is a surprise, I'm sure it is," Blackwell replied, his gaze flicking briefly to Avara and their joined hands before returning to Derek. "I need a word with you, as privately as possible." "Whatever you need to say, you can say it in front of Avara," Derek offered. Blackwell's expression hardened. "This is a matter of Earth security. Specialist, private means private." Derek hesitated, then turned to Avara. "Give me 5 minutes." Her skin settled into a muted pink, her expression carefully neutral. "Of course, I'll wait by the Benugian lees." She withdrew her hand from his and walked away, her posture perfect yet conveying tension in every line. Once she was out of earshot, Derek faced Blackwell. "What's this about, Commander? Your new friend?" Blackwell nodded in Avara's direction. "How much do you know about her?" "Enough," Derek replied coolly. "What's your interest in my personal life?" "When your personal life involves getting cozy with a high-level analyst at a corporation with known ties to groups hostile to Earth interests, it becomes my interest." Blackwell's voice was low but intense. "Nexus Interstellar isn't just any corporation, Morgan. They're developing technologies that could shift the balance of power in this sector. I'm aware of what Nexus does." Derek said carefully, "I work there, in operations, moving cargo, optimizing supply chains." Blackwell's tone turned dismissive. "Your Lamidian friend works in quantification, specifically predictive algorithms for defense systems." Derek felt a chill that had nothing to do with the garden's climate controls. "How do you know that?" "It's my job to know," Blackwell replied. He pulled out a small device and activated it, creating a privacy field around them that would prevent eavesdropping. "I'll be direct, Morgan. We've had our eye on you since you accepted the position at Nexus. Your background in Earth's merchant marine and your security clearance made you interesting to us. We've been monitoring you. Your new relationship with analyst Renterari has raised concerns." "What kind of concerns?" Derek demanded. Blackwell's expression remained impassive. "Lamidians are known for their ability to read and influence emotions. Their empathic abilities make them excellent at extracting information, sometimes without the subject even realizing it's happening." The implication hit Derek like a physical blow. "You think Avara is spying on me? Using me for information?" Blackwell laughed bitterly. "I don't have access to anything sensitive at Nexus, yet. But relationships can lead to promotions, access opportunities. The long game." Derek took a step closer, his voice dropping dangerously. "You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Our relationship has nothing to do with work." "Maybe not from your perspective," Blackwell said, unmoved by Derek's anger. "But consider this, of all the employees at Nexus, why did she respond to you, a human with ties to Earth's defense networks?" "It was a biological reaction, involuntary," Derek insisted. "So she told you?" Blackwell pressed. "Have you considered that Lamidians have exceptional control over their biological responses, that what seemed like an accident might have been carefully orchestrated?" Blackwell continued. Derek wanted to dismiss the suggestion outright, but a small seed of doubt took root despite himself. He remembered Avara saying that adult Lamidians could suppress most emotional displays if they chose to. Blackwell continued, "I'm not asking you to end the relationship, Morgan. I'm asking you to be aware, to keep your eyes open." He deactivated the privacy field and handed Derek a small communication chip. "If you notice anything unusual, questions about your past work, interest in Earth defense systems, attempts to access your personal communications, contact me. And if I refuse?" Derek challenged, "Then I'll be forced to take more direct action." "For Earth security," Blackwell said simply. With that, he nodded curtly and walked away, leaving Derek standing alone with a chip in his hand and a storm of emotions in his chest. When Derek rejoined Avara by the Benugian lees, Her skin was a subdued pink, lacking its usual luster. "Everything okay?" she asked, her tone carefully neutral. "Just some business from my Earth days," Derek lied, hating himself for it as the words left his mouth. "Nothing important." Her eyes studied his face, and he wondered if she could sense his deception. If Blackwell was right about Lamidian empathic abilities, she might already know he wasn't telling the truth. "You seem troubled," she observed. Derek forced a smile. "Just tired, it's been a long week." She didn't push further, but as they continued their walk through the gardens, he noticed her skin remained that subdued pink, occasionally showing flickers of yellow concern. The easy intimacy they'd shared earlier that evening now felt strained, tainted by Blackwell's insinuations. Later, back at her apartment as they prepared for bed, Derek found himself watching Ivara with new eyes. Was it possible that their entire relationship was some elaborate ploy to gain access to Earth's secrets? No, he decided as he watched her move around the bedroom, her skin shifting through subtle hues while she hummed softly. The connection between them was real. The way her skin blazed with color when they touched, the vulnerability she showed him in their most intimate moments, those couldn't be faked, could they? "You're staring," Ivara noted, turning to face him. "And your heart rate is elevated. Something's bothering you." Derek sighed. "Just thinking about work." She approached him, stopping just short of touching him. "Your emotional state suggests it's more than that. Is it us? Are you having second thoughts?" "No," he said quickly, reaching for her hands. "God, no, it's nothing like that." Where their skin met, her color shifted to a muted magenta, less vibrant than usual. "Then what is it?" "Because something changed after you spoke with that military officer," Derek hesitated. He could continue lying, but that would only drive a wedge between them. "I have some concerns about us." Finally, he admitted, "I'm troubled about you, specifically." Her skin cooled beneath his touch. "I see Earth military has concerns about you dating an alien. It's more complicated than that." Derek led her to sit on the edge of the bed. "I suspect that your interest in me might be professionally motivated." Understanding dawned in her eyes, followed by a flash of hurt that rippled across her skin in a wave of dark blue. "You think I, saw you coming and decided to flash my mating colors to seduce you? For what purpose? And exactly what great Earth secrets do you possess that would be worth such an elaborate deception?" he asked. "Put it that way," she said softly, "it does sound ridiculous, I don't know." Derek admitted, but Blackwell seemed convinced that Nexus has some agenda against Earth interests. "Nexus is a corporation," Ivara said flatly. "Its only agenda is profit." "Yes, we develop defense technologies among many other things, and yes, some of those technologies are sold to entities that Earth might consider rivals. That's business, not espionage." She stood abruptly, pacing the room as her skin continued to shift colors with agitation. "As for Lamidian control over our biological responses, yes, we can suppress most emotional displays with training, but the mating response is hardwired, primal. It would be like asking you to control your pupillary response to light." Derek wanted to believe her. Everything in him screamed that this woman was genuine, that their connection was real, but Blackwell's words had planted a seed of doubt that he couldn't quite shake. "I believe you," he said finally, but I needed to be honest about what he said. Ivara stopped pacing, her expression softening. "I appreciate your honesty, but it hurts to know you could even consider that our relationship might be based on deception." "I don't," Derek insisted as he stood to approach her. "Not really, but I'd be lying if I said his words didn't affect me at all." She allowed him to take her hands again, though her skin remained a pale, guarded pink. "What did he want from you, this military man?" Derek hesitated, then decided that complete honesty was the only way forward. "He gave me a communication chip, said I should contact him if I noticed anything suspicious." Her eyes searched his. "I don't know. I don't want to be caught in the middle of whatever game he's playing, but I also can't just ignore a direct request from Earth Defense." Ivara was quiet for a long moment, her skin gradually warming back to its normal pink hue. I understand your position, she said finally. You have loyalties to your home world just as I do to mine. She squeezed his hands gently. But I need you to know that what's between us, it's real, Derek. Whatever your commander might think. As if to prove her point, she leaned in and kissed him softly, and where their lips met, her skin bloomed with that familiar magenta, spreading outward in waves across her face and neck. See, she whispered against his lips, some things can't be faked. Derek pulled her closer, relief washing through him. I know, I know. As they held each other, Derek pushed thoughts of Blackwell and his warnings to the back of his mind. Whatever game the commander was playing, he refused to let it come between him and Ivara. Their connection was too precious, too real to sacrifice on the altar of political suspicion. Yet, as they drifted off to sleep later, Derek couldn't help wondering, what if Blackwell wasn't entirely wrong? What if there were forces at work here bigger than our relationship, and how would we navigate those waters without losing what we found together? The next day, in the Nexus Corporation laboratory, Derek stared at Dr. Payne, the chief medical officer, in disbelief. What do you mean, standard genetic workup? He asked. Dr. Payne adjusted her spectacles. All employees are required to undergo one after their first 90 days. It helps us tailor the environmental controls to species-specific needs and identify any potential health concerns. Derek glanced at the medical bay's gleaming equipment with suspicion. His conversation with Blackwell 2 weeks ago had left him more paranoid than he cared to admit. And this information stays confidential, of course. Medical ethics apply across species boundaries, Specialist Morgan, she assured him. Reluctantly, Derek rolled up his sleeve and allowed her to take a blood sample. How long until the results? He asked. 24 hours, she replied, sealing the sample. Sooner, if anything unusual appears. As it turned out, unusual was an understatement. Derek was in the middle of a logistics meeting when his communicator buzzed with an urgent message from Dr. Payne. Excusing himself, he stepped into the hallway. Dr. Payne, is something wrong? He asked. I need you to come to the medical bay immediately, she said, her voice tense. And it might be best if you come alone. A chill ran down Derek's spine. What's this about? Your genetic workup showed some anomalies. I'd rather discuss them in person. 20 minutes later, Derek sat in Dr. Payne's office, staring at a holographic display of what she claimed was his DNA. I don't understand, he said, studying the highlighted sections. What am I looking at? Dar. Payne leaned forward, her expression a mixture of scientific fascination and concern. This section here, it's not human, Derek. What do you mean, not human? Derek felt his heart rate accelerate. I'm pretty sure I'm human. Predominantly, yes, she agreed. But this sequence here, she pointed to a glowing strand of the DNA model, is not found in the human genome. It's not found in any Earth species. Derek stared at the display, his mind racing. So what is it that's so fascinating? Dr. Payne's scientific curiosity momentarily overrode her concern. It bears striking similarities to Lamidian DNA, specifically, the sequences that govern their chromatic response systems. The implications hit Derek like a physical blow. Are you saying I'm part Lamidian? No, not exactly, Dr. Payne clarified. The integration is too perfect, too seamless to be the result of natural hybridization. This looks like, well, like genetic engineering. Very sophisticated genetic engineering. Derek felt the room tilt slightly. That's impossible. I was born on Earth to human parents. Were you, Derek? Dr. Payne asked gently. Or is that what you were told? The question struck deep. Derek had grown up in a military family, moving from base to base. His parents had always been vague about his early childhood, attributing his spotty memories to all the relocations. Could there be more to that story? I need to know what this means, Derek said finally, forcing himself to focus. Practically speaking, Dr. Payne nodded and switched to a more clinical tone. The most immediate implication is that it explains your compatibility with analyst Renaris. Derek's head snapped up. You know about that? Medical monitors the well-being of all employees, she said diplomatically. The incident in the atrium was noted, and given that you two have been seen together off-duty, it wasn't difficult to connect the dots. So this DNA sequence is why she responded to you. Almost certainly, Dr. Payne confirmed. Lamidian mating responses are triggered by genetic compatibility, specifically, complementary patterns in their chromatic systems. Your anomalous DNA contains elements that would register as highly compatible to a Lamidian. Derek ran a hand through his hair, struggling to make sense of it all. Who else knows about this? No one yet, Dr. Payne said. Medical information is confidential. However, findings this significant typically get reported to the research division, particularly when they involve potentially groundbreaking discoveries in interspecies genetics. Don't, Derek said sharply, I need time to process this. Dr. Payne studied him for a moment, then nodded. I understand. This is a shock. I can delay my report for 48 hours, that's the best I can do. Thank you, Derek said, grateful for her compassion. I need to talk to AA about this. Of course, Dr. Payne's expression softened. For what it's worth, this discovery could be tremendously positive. The implications for interspecies medicine alone are fascinating. Derek managed a weak smile. I'll try to keep that perspective. Later that evening, as Derek arrived at Ivara's apartment, he paced nervously, rehearsing how to explain what he'd learned. When the door finally slid open, her delighted smile at seeing him quickly faded as she registered his emotional state. What's wrong? She asked immediately, her skin shifting to a concerned yellow. I had my medical workup today, Derek began. And they found something unexpected in my DNA. He guided her to the couch and sat beside her. Something that explains why you responded to me the way you did. As Derek explained Dr. Payne's discovery, Ivara's skin cycled through colors, surprise, confusion, and finally a deep, thoughtful indigo. That's remarkable, she said when he finished. I've never heard of such a thing being possible. Neither had Dr. Payne. Derek admitted, she thinks it's the result of genetic engineering. Ivara's brow furrowed. But why, and by whom? I don't know, Derek admitted. My parents were both in Earth military, they never talked much about my early childhood. I always assumed it was just because we moved around so much. Ivara took his hands in hers, her skin warming to a supportive amber. This must be overwhelming for you. It is, he agreed, but it also makes me wonder if Blackwell knew. If that's why he approached me, it's possible, Ivara acknowledged. If you were part of some classified Earth program, the military would keep tabs on you. Derek squeezed her hands. There's something else. Dr. Payne has to report this to Nexus Research Division soon. Once that happens, who knows how many people will be interested in my DNA, and in us. Ivara was quiet for a moment, her skin rippling with thought, then said decisively, we need to find answers quickly. Starting with your parents, they're stationed on Mars colony. Derek said, not exactly a quick trip. No, Ivara agreed, but we can still contact them tonight. The call to Mars took nearly 20 minutes to connect. When his mother's face finally appeared on the screen, Derek felt a rush of emotions, love, confusion, and a hint of betrayal. Derek, this is a surprise, Catherine Morgan said, her smile warm despite the poor connection. Is everything all right? I'm not sure, Mom, Derek replied honestly. I need to ask you something important. His mother's expression grew serious. Go ahead. My company did a genetic workup today, Derek said carefully, and they found non-human DNA sequences in my genome, specifically, sequences similar to Lamidian chromatic response systems. The color drained from Catherine's face. Beside her, Ivara's skin pulsed with confirmation. His mother's reaction was genuine surprise and concern. I need to get your father, she said, her voice shaking slightly, then disappeared from view. Minutes later, both his parents appeared on screen, their expressions grave. Son, his father began in his characteristic military bearing, there are things we were never supposed to tell you, things we signed multiple oaths to keep classified. I think it's time to break those oaths. Dad, Derek said firmly. James Morgan nodded, exchanging a look with his wife. You weren't born on Earth, Derek. You were born on Proxima Station, a joint research facility between Earth and several allied species, including the Lamidians. You were part of a program called Project Harmony, his mother continued. A voluntary initiative to create children who could bridge the biological gap between species. Your biological parents, your human parents, volunteered genetic material that was modified with compatible sequences from various allied species. The goal wasn't to create hybrids, his father clarified, but humans who could form deeper connections with other species, diplomatic, cultural, even biological connections. The theory was that such individuals could help forge lasting peace between Earth and its allies. Why didn't you tell me? Derek asked, struggling to keep his voice steady. His mother's eyes filled with tears. We wanted to, but the program was classified at the highest levels. When it was shut down. Shut down, why? Politics, his father said grimly. A new administration came in, one less interested in alien alliances. They deemed the program ethically questionable and terminated it. All the children, there were only 12 of you, were placed with military families who could be trusted to keep the secret. We were told it was for your protection, his mother added. If certain factions knew what you were, you might become targets. Derek absorbed the feeling, his hand tightening around Ivara's. Do you know which species DNA I carry? His parents exchanged another look. Primarily Lamidian, his father confirmed, with traces of Arcturon and Tone. The scientists believed Lamidian chromatic genes were the most compatible with human DNA, something about similar neurological structures that explains a lot. Derek murmured, glancing at Ivara. My mom said, if your company has discovered this, you need to be careful. The program may be defunct, but the information is still classified. There are people who would go to great lengths to study you, or worse, like Commander Blackwell. Derek asked his father, whose expression hardened, what should I do? Come home, his mother suggested immediately. We can protect you here. Derek felt Ivara's skin cool slightly against his hand at the thought of leaving her. I can't just, I run away, Mom. My life is here now, he protested. His father studied him through the screen, then nodded slowly. Then you need leverage, information that makes you too valuable to harm or coerce. The Project Harmony files, Derek realized. They're buried deep. His father warned, but I still have contacts. Give me a few days. As the call ended, Derek sat in silence, processing everything he'd learned. Ivara's skin settled into a supportive amber, occasionally flashing with gold hope. Are you okay? She asked softly. I don't know, Derek admitted. Finding out your entire existence is basically a classified experiment is a lot to take in, but it explains so much, why I responded to you so strongly, why our connection feels so right. Derek turned to face her fully. Does it bother you knowing that our compatibility isn't just chance? No, she said without hesitation, her skin pulsing with sincerity. Whether it's fate, biology, or some long-ago scientific design, what matters is what we choose to do with that connection. Derek felt something tighten in his chest then loosen at her words. You're right, he said, pulling her closer. I choose you. Her skin bloomed with magenta and gold at his touch, a visual confirmation of her joy. The next morning, Derek woke to an urgent message from Dr. Payne, my office has been accessed overnight. Your genetic data has been copied. Be careful. Shit, Derek muttered, showing the message to Ivara. Blackwell, she suggested, her skin darkening with concern. Or someone at Nexus, Derek said grimly. Either way, we need that leverage. As if on cue, his father's earlier words echoed in his mind. They didn't have to wait long. By midday, Derek received an encrypted data packet from Mars, the complete files on Project Harmony, including the names of everyone involved, the scientific protocols, and most importantly, the legal protections guaranteed to the project's children. This is it, Derek said as they reviewed the files in Ivara's apartment that evening. According to this, I'm legally classified as a protected diplomatic asset. Any attempt to coerce or experiment on, or harm me without consent, is a violation of the Proxima Accords, which Earth is still a signatory to. Ivara's skin brightened with hope. This gives you protection from both Earth authorities and corporate interests. Derek nodded, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. Now we just need to make sure the right people know that I know. As if on cue, his communicator chimed with an incoming call from Commander Blackwell. Commander Blackwell, Derek replied calmly. Blackwell's voice was terse. We need to meet now. Actually, Commander, I think we should make this a conference call, Derek suggested, adding, Dr. Payne, to the line. Doctor, I believe you reported my genetic anomalies to someone last night, Derek said. There was a moment of tense silence before Dr. Payne responded. I was approached by Commander Blackwell. He claimed it was a matter of Earth security. I see, Derek said. And Commander, now that you have confirmation of my Project Harmony origins, what exactly were you planning to do with that information? Blackwell's surprise was evident in his momentary silence. How did you? My parents were very helpful, Derek interrupted. They provided the complete Project Harmony files, including the legal protections guaranteed to all participants under the Proxima Accords. Another silence ensued, longer this time. When Blackwell spoke again, his tone had shifted from authoritative to diplomatic. The Defense Force has no intention of violating those accords, Morgan. Our interest is purely in ensuring Earth's security by suggesting that my relationship with Ivara was some kind of espionage plot. Derek challenged, that was perhaps an overzealous approach. Blackwell conceded, recent tensions with certain alien factions have us on high alert. Well, you can stand down, Commander, Derek said firmly. My relationship with Analyst Renaris is exactly what it appears to be, two people who share a unique compatibility. A compatibility that was engineered, Blackwell pointed out. But no less real, Derek countered. Now I'm willing to forget your attempts to manipulate me in Dr. Payne's breach of medical ethics, under one condition. Blackwell asked cautiously, you acknowledge my protected status and guarantee that neither Earth authorities nor Nexus Corporation will attempt to study, experiment on, or otherwise interfere with me or my relationship with Ivara without our explicit consent. The negotiation that followed was tense but ultimately successful. By the time the call ended, Derek had secured formal recognition of his status from both Earth Defense and Nexus Corporation, along with assurances that his genetic information would be classified at the highest level. That was impressive, Ivara said when the call ended, her skin shimmering with admiration. Derek smiled, feeling more at peace than he had in weeks. Maybe that's what I was designed to be. 1 month later, Derek and Ivara stood on the observation deck of a transport ship bound for Luma Prime. The swirling colors of hyperspace created a spectacular light show outside the viewport, but Derek found his attention drawn more to the play of colors across Ivara's skin as she gazed at the spectacle. Nervous about meeting your family? He asked, slipping an arm around her waist. Her skin rippled with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. A little. It's not every day you bring home a genetically engineered human designed to be compatible with our species, Ivara laughed when he put it that way. It sounds like I'm some kind of fancy pet. Trust me, Derek said, grinning as her skin flushed magenta where his hands rested on her hips. He marveled at the wonder of their connection. What had begun as an embarrassing incident in a corporate atrium had led to discoveries that changed his understanding of himself and opened possibilities he'd never imagined. What do you think they'll make of Project Harmony? He asked. Your people, she began, I mean, they'll be fascinated. Lumidians value connection above all else. The idea that humans would attempt to engineer deeper interspecies bonds will be seen as profoundly meaningful, even though the project was shut down. All the more reason to show them what was lost, she said softly, and what might still be possible. The ship's announcement system chimed, indicating they were preparing to exit hyperspace as the swirling colors outside began to stabilize. You know, Derek said, when I took this job at Nexus, I was just looking for a new adventure. I never expected, he gestured between them. All of this. Ivara's skin pulsed with golden joy. The best adventures are the ones you don't see coming, she replied. As the ship emerged from hyperspace, the breathtaking vista of Luma Prime filled the viewport, a world of shimmering oceans and iridescent land masses that seemed to glow from within. It was beautiful, alien, and somehow welcoming all at once. Welcome to my world, Ivara said, her eyes reflecting the planet's glow. Derek pulled her closer, feeling a profound sense of brightness. Whether by chance, fate, or scientific design, he had found where he belonged, not on Earth or Luma Prime, but wherever this remarkable woman was. It's beautiful, Ivara, he said, meeting both the planet and the woman in his arms. As Lumida Prime grew larger in the viewport, Derek realized that what had once seemed like a complication, his unique genetic makeup, was actually a gift. It had led him to Ivara and opened doors to worlds he might never have known otherwise. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, a living bridge between worlds, just as Project Harmony had intended. In that moment, Derek couldn't imagine a more perfect destiny.